Alright, hell yeah. So thanks for joining me. This should be a good one. We're going to do a voiceover. We're going to do some tutorials. After each these clips, we actually have back of the boat footage. So you can see the same wave, from a different perspective. The back of the boat footage actually is kind of more intense. So we'll try to put a little bit of the volume in on this. And so this is pretty sweet, straight up trying to hit this wave with that angle. That's new, kind of coming in laterally. Knowing that we do have a small little punch and coming in at an angle, and so that was kind of the take home on that one. Now over here, the fact that I can even paddle in on that side, I got some props from one of the kayakers. He says, hell yeah, you're crushing it with that, because that, hopefully we, from the back of the boat footage, we kind of see just trying to thread the needle, get surgical with your boat, and it's kind of interesting. It can be a lot of fails. So let's take a look. Even just getting momentum, we do this all from our offside, and so hell yeah, that right side, that's my offside. We're heavily leaning. We're really close to that rock. We're setting up a strong angle, not too much though. And we're driving in, trying to drive back down into that trough. Hell yeah. And so we only were able to do that about 3 times. Now this move right here we'll talk about quite a bit. It's kind of how to anchor the boat into a straight surf. It's not intuitive, I would not say. So hell yeah. And then entering from this side is just super clean, super smooth. I don't think it's easy from like a beginner standpoint, but once you got it, can glide across like hell yeah. And even the physics is the same for everyone. Even the surfers, they're going to glide that same glide slope like all the way across. And it's just kind of fascinating. I can go from almost a stop and charge kind of into this thing. And hell yeah. And this was a fun day, you know what I mean? I don't think I was practicing any one thing. I was just kind of having a good time. And that's pretty cool because now we can come back and kind of look at the footage. And so hell yeah. So leaning back, in a straight surf gets the bow out of the water, but it's just a little bit. And so right there, so we're on the left side angling to the right. So the bigger part of the pile is to my right side, but we're prying on that left. But then even just like right there, that means that we're going to turn to the left. So we're going to talk about that as well. And again, this has to be a quick tutorial. I can only kind of just spot stuff on the fly, else we'll just be here for 3 hours. And so, but hell yeah, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm gonna angle the boat to the right, like right here. So the boat technically is angled to the right, and I'm prying on that left side. If I paddled on that right side, I would just hook into that right side. But over here, now I'm going to hook into the left. And so that is something to pay attention to. But if you are kind of like surfing in a straight surf and you're on that balance point and the boat starts to spin, usually you can go with it, and then have the boat just kind of easily spin. Especially if you're kind of holding it in this position and it's running away on you. That's typically where you're actually able to do the 180 pretty easily. Like right there, I knew just from that footage that the second I ride up onto that wave, I'm going to get pieced out. And so that brings up another aspect of R1 surfing, is that you want to be dynamic up and down, like in a vertical direction, that if you are going to execute a move, you either want to do it punching into the top or punching into the trough. And so both of those help, because like right here we're just at the top and getting pieced out. And so so if that makes sense, if you can drive down into the trough and execute your move, then you have all the time as you're riding up into the trough to actually catch that wave. And so hell yeah. And here, that was a decent move, but the take home for me watching this is like that This small pile is just right there. So if I do hook around and spin off of it, I got to angle my boat right back into that pile. See how we're just spinning out? And we're going to go over here to the glassy part. Now, during this footage, I am able to actually spin around that pile, get to that far side where my boat is, and still keep a surf. And so, hell yeah, I'm actually really impressed that I'm able to paddle in on that side. This was a cool one, just a side surf. This is my offside, right side, and I probably don't do this side surf very much. This is kind of the first time. Because it's my offside, I don't kind of hold this position on the wave in my offside position. Now we just let it kick our way out, and that is what I have to be more, I can't feel that. It's really difficult to feel like, oh, I'm traveling up the wave and I'm going to get it pieced off. From a sensation perspective, it doesn't feel like anything. And so it's hard to put in, like, get that muscle memory to be like, oh, no. Like, get the indoor, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but there's no fight or flight. If I'm getting pieced off, I'm not like, oh, I'm bummed out, or I'm just letting it happen. Where it's like, you need something in your brain to trigger to, like, hey, do something different. Stay on that wave. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So that was, I think if you change the shape of the bow, you would be able to do a lot more dynamic maneuvers. This fits into the category of like a shove it, where you're actually driving into the trough, letting your bow hit, and then having the boat go sideways or toaster up against. So I use the term like toaster and shove it, where you drive the boat down, bow hits, and then also spins, and then you're using the pile to catch, and it usually kind of toasters the boat while you're doing a 180. Compared to like driven turns, like just position turns, positioning with the paddle, even like right there, that's just allowing the boat to pivot, grabbing the pile and doing turns. But when you actually do like a shove it or like a toastered turn, you're actually engaging the corners in the incoming water. So you're driving, making that strike, and that strike is causing the rotation. And that's where I think you could actually edge your boat and strike, and a lot of these pivots that are just kind of flat spins could actually get way more dynamic. And that's all kayak spins, that's all the kayak freestyle is. Most of the freestyle tricks are just like whether your boat is tilted at a certain angle. If your boat's over like a 45-degree angle, it's no longer a flat spin, it's like a roundhouse. Hell yeah. And so that maneuver right there, we actually do successfully, but that is from surfing the middle wave. That's realizing that I can switch positions, and then in a reverse position, I can actually paddle down the wave, because in a reverse position, like right here, I'm lowering to the trough, or like, we're going to do it right here. We're going to pry on that other side, and then we're going to switch into a reverse position, and our body position is going to be lower in the boat. Like right there, I'm more towards the bow, but it just edges too much. And so that I'm not fully spatially aware on having the boat catching the edge and then just taking me out of the wave or turning sideways. Right here is where I need to focus on shoulder turns. There's a couple footage that I definitely recognized where I need to do you have the foam pile, you have the pile, and you need to do a turn back into the pile. So we've kind of said that is like, if I'm going to spin, like right here, I need to get back to the pile. So there's two different places I could jump to the pile, and we're going to actually see that in another clip, where it's just like, if the boat, just always being spatially aware of where that pile is. And so hell yeah. But I did focus on this. Yeah, so that was more of that shoulder turn. But then, yeah, that move right there was hella, because that's alt 1 jumping back to the pile, and then also locking in that position. And so we're going to see it from this back of the boat, or front of the boat, because this is not intuitive at all. You're straight surfing, and knowing that you're going to get kicked to the right, and you're prying on the left side, and then locking it in the same location, and then we spin and flip. So hell yeah. What I need to do next time, though, because we are holding that straight surf in that position that I was mentioning, we don't do it on the other side, you know. So let me explain that next time. So like right here, if we are going towards that pile, I need to be prying on that left side. That's the only way to get over to that pile, because else I'll just spin out. And so hell yeah, once we got over to the pile, then I was able to take that one stroke. Hell yeah. And this one we do a really good job holding on that. Hell yeah. But like right here, we're going to get spun out, and so that's where it's just like I can focus on doing a shoulder turn back in, or just really jumping for the back of the boat, jumping for the pile, just being pile oriented. Like that, the pile is what's going to, you know, be the sticky point, and the shoulders of the pile are going to exit. But hell yeah, that position right there to turn, to edge that direction. Hell yeah. And I think even in that one, maybe I did that reverse turn where I was in the reverse position, I think, on that one. Oh yeah, straight surf, left pry, angling the boat to the right. We're kind of sitting more centered. It's almost the equivalent of wanting to be on the right side. You know, like, and that's intuitive, because, like, let's take a look at this. I'm going to go across the pile. At some point, the pile is going to be on my right, and that's kind of interesting. The pile's not really on my right, but this, if I am on that right side, it'll just hook me out. It really wants to, if I straight surf this on the right side, it's going to hook me out to the right. But one thing that I do not practice is being on that right side and then prying to the left. Hell yeah, nice little spin. But even like right here, it's like we're going to spin out past the pile into the glassy water, and we're going to get pieced out. So like if I am going to do this spin, chop it short, and know to get back to the pile. So this spin right here, chop that short and catch it. See, we didn't catch it, so obviously we're going to get pieced out. So that, the muscle memory that, you know, I need to put into my head is just like, you can't do a 360 on that, because you'll just be across the pile. I can do a 360 if I start like right here, do one, and I think we do that at one point. I don't know if we've seen that one yet. I think like right here, actually, here's the 360, and then we catch it. So I'm glad that was well timed, because we started the spin on this closer side of the pile, and that was a good one too, where we lock it back into the pile and spin. Unfortunately, we still got kicked out. All right, hell yeah, we're doing good. We got 11 minutes more of this. 11, 12, hell yeah. Yeah, so that's going to spin us, and we're going to try to... We just kind of lucked out on that 360, and then we hold that position back in. That low side dip, that is... The more you can do that as an R1er, you know, this is where I would go back and watch that low side dip, because that, and that's going to be, that's on my offside. No, that's probably actually on my strong side. But that low side dip you know, prying on that side and bringing the boat around, it feels like it's going to tip you out, and it's just it's a mandatory skill for R1 to stay on small stuff. It's really difficult to feel like when it's going to flip you. But hell yeah. So this should have one of those where we kind of pry on like right there, that pry right there to try to bring it back around, but that's just too aggressive. And so I actually want to do a tutorial on that piece of footage. Hell yeah. Yeah, these straight surfs, because my bow is so, the bow isn't cutting in, you know what I mean? So the bow is not cutting into the wave at all, and so it's just like a very bulbous pivot point. You know, it's an inflated raft. And so that's what I noticed with the other surfing kayaks is their stern, and sorry I'm saying bow, the stern cuts in. The stern of the kayaks will cut in, it'll kind of flatten out that surf, and it'll keep the boat from getting pivoted so easily. But that's where we're having problems with R1, is just like when you are surfing from that back position, you know, the second that it gets, you know, off a little bit, and it's because nothing's really cutting into that. The stern has too much volume. And you can have the same width, actually. The same width, just with almost no volume, will still plane when you want it to plane, but then tip back and actually drive in underneath that current as well. And so that can have double the benefits, actually. And then slicing back and forth. See how my bows, like, unless my bow's at the very bottom, it can't go back and forth around that wave. So you get no cutting. And hell no, I'm calling the stern the bow. So sorry about that. But yeah, the stern of the boat, there's no cutting aspect of the stern, and I'm glad I'm calling it the bow, because it literally is just a really bulbous. Both ends of the raft are equally bulbous. They're symmetric, and we have no stern. You know what I mean? Our stern is. You could sit back there, you know what I mean? But I actually don't need to sit back there. I actually do all my back positions just leaning off that back thwart, and it has nothing to do with the shape of I'd never even touched the back of the stern. So my stern could be very low profile, low volume. It can be the same width. We've talked about that. It can have the same planing surface, but just being low volume. And that would be a game changer, because when you go low into the trough, you have this back and forth, but the stern can't slice, you know, into the wave. And that slicing actually sets you into a locked position. That's what I noticed with the kayakers. They're just low into the surf, and then you're using all the dynamics. Once you've got that low, stable position, then you can turn and then ride up onto the wave. And I think that actually gives you more vertical, you know, up-down motion, because everyone needs that. You need to be able to go top to bottom of a wave, surf up and down the wave to actually drive these spins to give you the time to do them. It's very similar to skateboarding, doing tricks at the top of the ramp. But yeah, this was a game changer to pry on that far side, to pry back. It's counterintuitive, you know what I mean? It seems like you would want to be on the closer side, and then just, yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So hell yeah, once we're over here, we jump to that locked position. That is a shoulder turn, and then I have to do this pry. You know, because if I just jump to the other side to get to the other side, like, our boat's going to cut sideways and then dig in too much. And so that is kind of interesting, because the boat, when it's sideways, just kind of catches and drives off, where I think a kayak could still edge on their high side, especially these surf kayaks. You are on the high side edge and you can still surf across, where once this boat gets turned sideways, it kind of just peels off just because of the surface drag. But hell yeah, so this move right here, I just need to do on the opposite side, you know what I mean? Practice getting on this side of the pile and edging, and then turning the boat to the left, prying on the right, you know what I mean? And so maybe I'll talk my way through this one. So like right here, the pile is on my left, and that's just going to spin me almost into 180 so then I have to actually turn back to the right, and then always keep that pry. And so if I turn to the left, it's going to loop me to the left. So that's why I have to keep the boat to the right and then hold that pry. And on this wave, that's the more stable position. What I'm talking about now is like doing the opposite on the other side. Get to the other side of the boat and pry, and then get the boat angled to the left. And that is what I haven't practiced at all. And so that would be prying on my offside, which is very useful and good. And so here's the only technique that I'm actually using, is that pry on the left, having my boat angled to the right. Alright, hell yeah, here's the middle wave. We do 2 good surfs on the middle wave. And, you know, this wave is just rowdy. I probably should spend all my time on it, but what I have found is I'm just doing the same move. So I just get into that back position and then spin around. But that back position is real golden. The second surf is the only really good one, and then that's it for the middle wave. But it has one aspect of it, and here's still that first surf. When we jump to this reversed position, so like right here, it's an edged and then reversed position. It drives you lower into the trough. On that time, it just kind of was a pivot point on top of that pile. But what I have noticed is there's a point where I need to drive all the way across that pile. So I'm going to be on the left side, and I need to get far over there onto the right. So right here we do our spin, and sometimes these spins will kick us to the left. That one did, but then we're able to surf back. Hell yeah. And like right here, now we're over on the left, we do this, and so I'm holding that position and then driving over. So that is spatial recognition. That's different than the last time, to be like, you know what I mean? I can ride up the wave and then surf down from that position. And that back position allows me to weight the bow. I can't do the same thing front surfing. And so we're done with this wave, but that's the wild thing. It's like, I guess we got the back to boat footage. If I did jump, if I'm on that tube like right there, I can't weight the bow enough. And so that, from a redesign, is you would want to be able to get your body up and over that front thwart, have the boat tip onto the front bow just from a small lean, so an asymmetric boat. And this is where we knocked my camera with my paddle, and it broke off the mount. But because we have a string backup, we actually saved all the footage. So always find some way to attach a string to your GoPro, because you will bust off the plastic mounts, and you wouldn't want to be without your GoPro. Hell yeah. So we got less than 2 minutes. And but in this 2 minutes, we actually do a lot of straight surfing, and we do something that also is completely... so like right here, we're trying to stand up with our feet, and this is almost like what a surfer would do, and this also weights the bow. We just talked about how it's difficult to weight the bow from an R1 with your knees and stuff, but from your feet being tucked up against the bow, like right here, I can drive my feet down, and that's from a physics perspective, from a statics perspective. You're putting all your weight onto your feet, and it's either this surf or the next surf that we actually stand up. And so the boat gets a little vertical, and then, yeah, this surf right here, the boat gets vertical, and then we're standing up above the boat, like right on this one. Hell yeah. So like right there, my butt is off that tube, and I do it twice, and that makes this more rowdy. You know what I mean? It doesn't get kicked out as easy because I'm standing and wading lower into the trough. And so hell yeah. I think one more surf, and then that does it. But yeah, this catch was fun, and that was a good catch. You know what I mean? Just drive in, and then that's solid. That's my strong side. I wouldn't be able to do that on my offside. And weighting the feet, hell yeah. Because I think then that opens up R1 to do more, you know, freestyle tricks. All right, that's it. Thanks for joining me. Booyah.